What you expect is what you get. The invisible architect. Something is shaping your life right now. Not your circumstances, not your luck, not the economy, the stars, or the people around you. It's something much closer, something operating within you silently, constantly, with incredible precision shaping which experiences you attract, which opportunities you see, which relationships you build, and which futures seem possible or impossible to you. You probably haven't noticed it. Most people never do. It operates below conscious thought, below intention, and even below awareness. It is older than your career, your adult relationships, and your sense of identity. It was formed early on, during moments when you were too young to question what you were learning about the world and your place in it. What is this invisible architect? It is your expectation, not your hopes, not your wishes, not the things you consciously tell yourself you want. Your expectations, what you truly, at your core, believe will happen. What you assume without questioning it is true about you, about people, about life, and about what is available to you and what isn't. And here's the law that changes everything once you understand it. Energy follows thought. You head toward what you can picture, and you cannot go beyond what you expect. This is the law of expectations. Today, we will bring it into the light, where it loses its invisible hold over you and gains the power to transform everything. The world you see is the world you expect. Let me tell you about two people who started the same job on the same day. The first person enters with a quiet, deeply rooted belief formed in childhood and reinforced by many small experiences, since that people can't really be trusted, that colleagues are rivals, that bosses are looking for reasons to judge rather than to promote. Getting close to people at work feels dangerous because they will eventually disappoint you. The second person enters with a different set of expectations, believing that most people are fundamentally good and worth knowing. They view collaboration as a way to achieve better results than competition. Their boss, like most leaders, wants the team to succeed and seeks opportunities for people to grow. Same job, same office, same colleagues, same manager, same reality, just on paper. But here's what happens. The first person, expecting distrust, interprets neutral interactions as suspicious. They hold back, protect themselves, share less, connect less, and contribute cautiously rather than generously. Gradually and subtly, the people around them mirror that energy. Colleagues become slightly more guarded. The boss notices a certain distance. The relationship that might have become a genuine professional lifeline never develops, not because others weren't capable of it, but because the expectation of distrust made it impossible. The second person, expecting goodwill, leans in. They share ideas, ask questions, and show vulnerability and curiosity. The colleagues respond, and the boss takes notice. Opportunities begin to flow their way not because they were luckier, but because they were open, as lucky people tend to be. Two entirely different experiences, one office, two distinct expectations. This is the law of expectations in action. It's not mystical or magical. It's simply the logical result of a deep truth. What you look for, you find. What you prepare for, you create conditions for. What you expect, you tend to move toward. And the world, noticing your approach, tends to come toward you. Your expectations are not merely passive guesses. They are powerful forces that influence your actions, perceptions, relationships, and decisions, ultimately shaping your reality. Understanding this isn't easy. It can be hard to accept that your expectations largely shape your life. But it's the truth. And the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is the only place where real change can begin. The origins of your expectations. If your expectations are shaping your reality this strongly, the most urgent question is, where did those expectations come from? And the honest answer is, mostly from a time when you couldn't choose them. The core beliefs and expectations most of us carry about our worth, our abilities, our lovability, what we can and cannot accomplish, and whether the world is safe or threatening were shaped in early childhood. They were formed in the family we were born into, through what we were told, both directly and indirectly, about who we are and what we can expect from life. Some of these messages were beautiful, nurturing, expansive. They told you that you were capable, loved, and worthy of receiving the good things the world had to offer. And some of those messages were not. Some were limiting, some were outright wrong. Others were passed down through generations of people who carried wounds they hadn't healed, beliefs they hadn't questioned, and expectations they never challenged. A child is repeatedly told through words, actions, or even silence that their needs are too much. They learn to expect they'll burden others. As an adult, they don't ask for help. They don't let people in. They handle everything alone and wonder why they feel so lonely. A child who observes a parent approach money with scarcity and fear learns to expect that financial security is fragile and on the verge of vanishing. As an adult, they may self-sabotage just before achieving real success, not because they don't want it, but because their deep-seated expectation is that it can't last, and unconsciously, they end up confirming what they already believe. A child is told in 1,000 small ways that they are not quite smart enough, not quite talented enough, not quite enough at all, and they carry that expectation into every room they enter. They shrink before a job interview. They don't raise their hand in a meeting. They settle for a relationship that feels safe, even if it doesn't align with their true desires, because at least there they won't be disappointed. None of this is your fault. Let me say that clearly. The expectations you held as a child were your best efforts to make sense of the world you were born into. They were adaptive, helping you survive and navigate your specific environment. But you're no longer that child, and the environment has shifted. The only question now is whether you are still operating under those old expectations or whether you are willing to examine, question, and consciously choose new ones. That exam is the first step toward true freedom. The gap that transforms everything. Here's why positive thinking alone often falls short. You decide to change. You create affirmations. You write down your goals. You tell yourself new, better, and more empowering things like, I am successful, I am worthy, I attract abundance, I am capable of achieving my dreams. And you truly mean it. Every time you say it, you mean every word. But beneath those conscious declarations, in the deeper layers of the mind where your core beliefs reside, something doesn't agree. Something that has been there for decades, built on thousands of accumulated experiences, quietly says, that's not really true. That's not really how it works. That's not really who you are. And the subconscious mind, which isn't constrained by politeness or the desire to be supportive, continues to run the old program, the old expectation, the old reality. This isn't a failure of will. It's a gap between conscious intent and subconscious expectation. Until that gap is closed, until your deeper mind truly agrees with the new story, the old story continues to write itself. This is why someone may want to change, feel like they're trying everything, yet still end up in the same place, again and again. It is not because they aren't trying hard enough. It is because the effort is happening at the conscious level while the programming remains unchanged at the subconscious level. Think of it like a thermostat. You enter a cold room and turn on a space heater. The heater runs continuously, expending effort and energy, but the room stays cold because the thermostat is set to cold. As soon as the heater turns off, the temperature quickly returns to the level the thermostat expects. Your subconscious expectations serve as your thermostat. Until you reset the thermostat, not just add heat, you'll keep returning to the same temperature, no matter how hard you try. So, how do you reset it? We'll get into that in detail. But the first step, which makes all the others possible, is becoming aware of what the subconscious thermostat is set to. The clearest way to read that setting is to examine the patterns in your life honestly. Your recurring problems are not random. Your repeated struggles, the themes that keep appearing across different relationships, jobs, and chapters of your life, these are the footprints of your subconscious expectations. They act like a thermostat, showing you its current setting, not to blame you, to inform you, to provide the exact information you need to start changing the setting. Reflect on your life. Notice the patterns. What do they reveal about your deepest expectations? Reading the evidence your life is showing you. This section calls for courage, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, honest kind that says, I am willing to look. Your life right now is full of evidence of your expectations. All you need to do is read it without judgment, without defensiveness, and without the story that explains away every pattern as someone else's fault or as simple bad luck. Where do you keep ending up at the same painful destination? Where do the same kinds of conflicts keep recurring, no matter who the other person is? Where do you keep pulling back just before the breakthrough? Where do things consistently go only so far and then stop? Those stopping points are not limits set by the world. There are limits created by your expectations of what you can do. Maybe you often find yourself in relationships where one person contributes more than they receive and you are always the one giving. That pattern is not a coincidence. It reflects an expectation, perhaps, that love must be earned, that your needs are secondary, and that you are more comfortable pouring out than being filled. Maybe you keep reaching a certain level of financial success only for something to happen, an unexpected expense, a bad decision, or a circumstance that pulls you back down. That pattern is the thermostat, the expectation that abundance is temporary, the belief that having too much is somehow unsafe or undeserved. Maybe you often underperform when you're being watched, when someone is observing, evaluating, and forming an opinion. The underlying belief might be, if people look closely enough, they'll see I'm not as capable as I seem. As a result, you unconsciously confirm that fear by not performing up to your true potential. Reading these patterns isn't about shame. It's about precision because you can't change what you can't see. Once you see the expectation underlying the pattern clearly and specifically, you have something to work with. The great reversal, and this is where it truly becomes exciting, is that the same mechanism that keeps you stuck can also set you free. If your expectations shape the patterns you're in, then new expectations can create completely different patterns. The landscape of your life can change. Not overnight, not without real effort, but genuinely and fundamentally at the level of what you attract, what you allow, and what you believe is available to you. That change starts with a decision to stop accepting your old expectations as truth and to build new ones intentionally. The power of deep work. Changing your expectations isn't the same as changing your thoughts. It goes deeper than that. It involves working at the level where expectations actually exist in the body, the subconscious, and the felt sense of what is real and possible for you. Here's how that work gets done. The first step is clarity of intention, not a vague wish, but a specific, vivid picture of what you want to experience. Not, I want to be more successful, but what does success look like for you, specifically on a particular day? Where are you? What are you doing? Who is with you? What does it feel like in your body? How do you feel when you wake up in the morning knowing this is your life? This specificity matters because the subconscious mind does not respond to abstractions. It responds to images, emotions, sensations, and stories, which it can perceive as real. The more vivid and embodied your picture of the desired reality, the more powerfully it can take root where expectations reside. The second step is immersive visualization, and I mean truly immersive, not just a quick mental snapshot before you move on with your day. This means closing your eyes, engaging all your senses, and spending real time in the imagined scenario you're creating. See it, hear it, feel it, smell it. The subconscious mind, which cannot clearly distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one, begins to form new impressions, new grooves, new expectations shaped not by the past, but by the future you're intentionally designing. The third step is perhaps the most unusual and one of the most powerful. When you begin this process of affirmation and visualization, you'll encounter resistance. Contradictory thoughts will arise. The voice that says, "This is ridiculous. This isn't real. Who do you think you are to expect this? You're almost broke. You're not that kind of person. You've never managed this before." Don't suppress these voices. Instead, and this may sound strange, give them full, exaggerated expression. Say them out loud, loudly and dramatically, almost like a caricature of the fearful voice. Repeat them until they lose their weight, charge, and authority over you. This technique works because it brings the fearful expectation into the light. In the dark, it functions as truth. Spoken aloud, dramatized, and repeated until it sounds almost absurd, it begins to reveal itself as what it truly is: an old story, a program installed long ago, not reality, just a belief. And beliefs, unlike facts, can be changed. The fourth step is embodiment. Begin practicing as the person who already has the new expectation, not just pretending, but genuinely embodying it. How does someone who truly expects to be loved move through a room? How does someone who deeply expects to succeed approach a challenge? How does someone who truly expects abundance make decisions about spending, saving, and giving? When you practice embodying the new expectation even before external evidence appears, you begin to rewire your subconscious from the inside out. The body guides the mind toward new beliefs. Behavior creates new results. These results support the new expectation. This is the cycle of positive expectation in action, not magic, not wishful thinking, a real, genuinely transformative process available to anyone willing to put in the work at the right level. Expectations in relationships. The law of expectations is most impactful and often misunderstood in our relationships. Because our expectations of others don't stay inside us, they radiate outward. They shape how we interact with people, how we speak to them, how open or guarded we are, and how we interpret their words and actions. And people, as perceptive and responsive beings, sense what we expect of them. More often than we realize, they rise or fall to meet those expectations. This is sometimes called the Pygmalion effect. Teachers who were told that certain students were especially bright even when they weren't, even if the assignment was random, observed those students perform at a higher level by year's end. Not because the students changed, but because the teacher's expectations shifted. The extra attention, encouragement, and the subtly but consistently communicated belief students internalized it and became it. What you expect from the people in your life is shaping them. Right now, today. Not completely, not without limits. People have their own nature, agency, and choices. But the expectations you hold of someone are a force in the relationship, and most of us are unaware of the expectations we carry and project. Think about the partner, friend, or colleague you've given up on, the one you've mentally labeled. They'll never change. That expectation shapes every interaction you have with them, in your tone, your willingness to engage, and how you interpret their actions. They can sense it. Even if no one says a word, they notice the withdrawal of genuine belief. Now, think about the people in your life who believed in you when you didn't quite believe in yourself, who expected something of you before you had shown it, who spoke to you as though you were already the person they knew you could become. How did that affect you? Most of us can name at least one person: a teacher, a mentor, a parent, A friend whose genuine expectation of us changed what we thought was possible, and whose belief allowed us to believe in ourselves. Whose expectation, held firmly, warmly, and with complete conviction, became a mirror we could grow into. You can be that person for those around you, not by pretending they're perfect or by ignoring what needs to change, but by holding on to the genuine expectation of their goodness, capacity, and potential beneath the daily realities. That expectation, communicated quietly, powerfully, and persistently, is one of the greatest gifts you can give another human being. And when you offer it, something interesting happens. When you expect the best of others, you also begin to expect the best of yourself. Expecting generously becomes a habit. Over time, that habit shapes your character, expectations, and the growth mindset. One of the most harmful beliefs a person can hold is that their abilities are fixed, that they either have talent in a specific area or they don't, that they are a certain type of person and that no amount of effort will change that core nature. This idea that who you are is fixed and that your potential has already been set and recorded is one of the most limiting beliefs a person can hold. And it is deeply, obviously wrong. Your brain isn't fixed. Your skills aren't set in stone. Your ability to learn, grow, and become more than you are now, that capacity has no ceiling that science has ever identified. What seems like a lack of talent is almost always a lack of practice. What appears to be a fixed limit is almost always a movable expectation. The research on this is overwhelming. People who believe their abilities can grow, who expect that effort leads to improvement, consistently outperform those with equal or greater natural ability who believe their intelligence or talent is fixed. Not just sometimes, always, because the expectation of growth changes their behavior. They persist longer, seek challenges rather than avoid them, and interpret failure as information rather than a verdict. The crucial question this research raises is not, are you smart, talented, or capable enough? The question is, what do you expect of your own capacity to grow? Do you approach unfamiliar challenges expecting to figure things out, trusting that learning will happen, even if it's uncomfortable or you look awkward at first? Or do you expect to reach your limit quickly and be exposed as someone who lacks what it takes? Because that expectation held before the first attempt shapes everything that follows. Here's something practical I want you to try. Think of an area in your life where you have a strong expectation of limitation, something you tell yourself you're just not good at, not naturally talented at, or that others manage but you've accepted as out of reach. Now ask yourself, where did that expectation come from? Was there a specific moment, a teacher's comment, a failed attempt, a bad comparison when you decided this was not your field? And is that moment, that single piece of past data, truly enough to define what is possible for you now? You are not the same person you were when that expectation was set. You have gained more knowledge, resilience, cognitive tools, and life experience. The only thing that hasn't changed until now is the expectation. Change it, not with a wall of positive thinking, but with a genuine question. What if I could? What if this area is actually available to me if I approach it with patience and persistence rather than assuming failure? That question, asked with genuine openness and willingness, marks the start of a new expectation. As we've discussed, new expectations lead to new realities. The courage of high expectations. I want to share something now that may challenge what you've been quietly told. Expecting great things isn't arrogance. It isn't delusional. It's not the kind of magical thinking that wise people rightly question. Expecting great things from yourself, your life, your relationships, and your future is an act of deep courage. Because high expectations are vulnerable, when you genuinely hope for something good, when you allow yourself to believe that a wonderful relationship is possible for you, that meaningful work is within reach, and that health, vitality, and joy are not reserved for other people, you also open yourself up to disappointment. You risk the pain of wanting something and not getting it, as well as the possibility of believing and being wrong. Many people have learned through repeated disappointment and the accumulated bruises from hoping too much to protect themselves by setting low expectations. Expect nothing, and you'll never be hurt. Want less, and you'll always have enough. Don't let yourself believe in things that might not happen. I understand this impulse. It stems from genuine pain, and I want to respect it. But I also want to point out the cost. A life lived behind the shield of low expectations is a life painted in gray. Safe, maybe, but diminished. Quieter than it should be. And beneath the safety, if we're honest, there's usually a particular private grief. The grief of a life not lived. The grief of the version of yourself that was never given the chance to show what it could do. High expectations come with living a full life. They demand that you openly desire things, allow yourself to want genuinely, even if it doesn't always work out. They require you to believe in yourself despite evidence that sometimes challenges that belief. They call for a special kind of stubborn, warm-hearted faith in what is possible, even when the current reality doesn't yet align with that vision. That faith isn't naive. It's the choice of someone who believes the risk of disappointment is outweighed by the cost of never trying. So expect great things, not unthinkingly, not without the effort, awareness, and deep subconscious alignment we've discussed, but genuinely, boldly, with your whole self. Expect that you are capable of more than your current circumstances suggest. Expect that the people in your life have more goodness than your current frustration can see. Expect that the world has more possibilities than your current fears believe. Because what you expect, you move toward it, and you deserve to strive for something extraordinary. When expectations confront reality, all of this, everything we have explored today, is true, and it is also incomplete without this. The law of expectations does not promise that whatever you expect will happen exactly as you picture it. It does not guarantee that positive expectations will lead to positive results on a set schedule, free from setbacks, complications, or the unpredictable surprises of life. Real life is messier than that. Anyone who says otherwise is selling something. What the law of expectations truly promises is this: your expectations shape what you are open to. They influence what you pursue and what you let go of. They affect how you interpret what happens, whether a setback confirms you were foolish to hope or provides information that guides your next move without shattering your belief. They determine whether you keep moving forward when things get tough or stop and think the challenge means it wasn't meant for you. In other words, your expectations shape your resilience, persistence, and ability to stay in the game long enough for luck to turn in your favor. People with high, clear, aligned expectations do not experience fewer failures. They face more because they try more. However, they interpret failure differently as a teacher rather than a judgment. As a result, they try again, applying lessons from each previous attempt until the efforts, adjustments, and persistence eventually lead to something that outsiders may see as extraordinary luck or talent. It is neither. It is the result of an expectation that refused to give in. So, when life hands you something that doesn't meet your expectations, and it will, I want you to hold back from your initial reaction. Hold back from the voice that says, "This proves I was wrong to expect." Hold back from the instinct to lower your expectations to match the disappointment. Instead, consider what this teaches you. Reflect on what adjustment it suggests. Evaluate whether the expectation itself needs refinement, becoming more specific, better aligned, or more truly yours, rather than abandoning it. Expectations, like skills, grow through use, testing, learning, and recalibrating. Through patient, persistent practice of focusing on what you believe is possible, even as the path shifts beneath your feet. That is not delusion. It is one of the key traits of those who create remarkable lives. Stay the course, adjust your expectations, keep going, What are your expectations? We have come a long way together, from the unseen structure of expectations shaping your life beneath conscious awareness, to the childhood roots of the beliefs that became your default settings, from the disconnect between conscious intention and subconscious expectation, to the deep, patient, and genuinely transformative process of bridging that gap. From how expectations ripple outward into your relationships and your experience with others, to the profound courage required to expect greatness from yourself and your life, and to keep expecting it even when the path gets difficult. And now we reach the only question that matters. What are you expecting? What do you truly expect? Not what you wish for or hope for when you're feeling optimistic and circumstances seem in your favor, but what do you honestly, deep down, expect? What is your true worth? What kind of love will you experience? What can your work become? What kind of health can your body achieve? What kind of person are you becoming? And what kind of life is truly available to you? Because the answer to that question isn't just a description of how you feel, it's a prediction, a remarkably accurate one about where you're headed. But here is the extraordinary thing. Here is what I most want you to take away from this room today. The answer might change. Not easily. Not overnight. Not without honest self-examination, deep subconscious work, and sustained effort to build new mental frameworks where the old, limiting ones once stood. But it can change. People frequently alter their core expectations, and when they do, their lives often transform in ways that seem almost miraculous to outsiders. Impossible relationships suddenly become attainable. Financial circumstances shift. Health improves. Creative opportunities that seemed closed for years suddenly open, not because the universe rearranged itself for them, but because they rearranged themselves at the level of expectation and began moving, perceiving, attracting, and creating differently. That is available to you right now, not as a future project for when you feel more ready. It is a decision you can start making in the next hour, the next day, or in the next small moment of choice. Choose to examine the expectations you've been carrying honestly. Choose to question those that do not serve you. Choose deliberately, patiently, consistently to create new ones. Ones that honor who you are now, not who you were told you were then, expectations that recognize the full measure of your potential. And then watch what comes toward you, because you get what you expect. You should expect the extraordinary. Start now. Live today. The life you envision is within your reach.